Hey everybody, Chris Peters here with a scouting report for the 2024 NHL Draft, and we are focusing on the number one prospect. You already know him, and it is Macklin Celebrini of Boston University. The 17-year-old, coming off one of the greatest freshman seasons in the history of college hockey, became just the fourth freshman to win the Hobey Baker Memorial Award. Also was the Hockey East Player of the Year and Rookie of the Year, and that is just him stacking up awards after winning all of the awards in the USHL last season and putting together one of the great performances by a Canadian at the World Under-18 Championship. But in 2023-24, it's been all about what he did in college. At 17 years old, the youngest player in the college game, Macklin Celebrini did it all. And let's take a look at the stats that he put together this year. 38 games played, 32 goals scored, 32 assists, 64 points, and 1.68 points per game. As we mentioned, just the fourth freshman to win the Hobey Baker Memorial Award, joining Paul Kariya, Jack Eichel, and Adam Fantilli. So exclusive company for Macklin Celebrini. And that is why we are looking at him as the number one prospect. There's so many reasons that he is the number one prospect, but let's get into the scouting report, the hows and the whys, because the stats are great, the awards are great, but what did you do on the ice? And well, Macklin Celebrini does it all. He might be one of the most complete players I've ever tracked for the draft, and I've been doing this since about 2010. So we're talking about some of the great players that have come through the NHL in recent years, and really as prospects, and this is specific to what they were at 17, 18 years old, Macklin Celebrini has one of the most complete games I've seen personally among these players, especially among centers, because often those first overall picks, a lot of offense, a lot of scoring ability. Maybe they weren't as good in the defensive elements of the game. That is not true of Celebrini. He is elite in the defensive end. He is also tremendously smart. And hockey sense, obviously, is one of the most important traits that you can have as a top prospect. And Macklin Celebrini is elite in that regard. His skating is well above average, closer to the very good range. I wouldn't call him an elite skater, but certainly has the speed to get through and beat defenders wide, get to the net well. One of the things I really like about him, aside from just his hand skills, is his ability to get to the interior. That's one of the most important things to create offense as a center in the NHL, is to get to the middle of the ice and to make plays. And that is what Celebrini did all season long. He has an elite shot, great shooting off the pass, really solid with his ability to shoot off the rush as well. He can score from distance, but he's not afraid to get to the dirty areas. A lot of goals that he scored came from very close to the net front, slithering through defenders, taking some punishment, finding ways to get to the net front. That is all very important, and what Macklin Celebrini did so exceptionally well. But as we mentioned, it's not just about those offensive elements that he has. We talk about the shot, the hands, the ability to get to the inside, the hockey sense, all the plays that he can make, the passing ability. He does it all at a very high level and processes the game at a high level. But what it really impressed me is his competitiveness off the puck. He is a dogged competitor. You can see it every single game. The way that he plays away from the puck is what will separate him from his peers. He is aggressive. He is physical. And he also takes a beating pretty much every game in terms of players going after him, and it never matters, and it doesn't knock him off his game. He's very difficult to frustrate, and he is a very frustrating player to play against because of that tenacity, the toughness, all those different things. Now, let's remember, this is a guy that played through a shoulder injury through the entirety of his rookie season in the USHL, ended up being the player of the year, the rookie of the year, the forward of the year, and pretty much the all-world player. Then went and set the Canadian scoring record, or tied this Canadian scoring record at the World Under-18 Championship, and that was all right before he had surgery last offseason. So this is a guy that's not just tough physically, he's mentally tough as well, because he's able to get through certain things. And so he played all the way through, had a record-setting season in the USHL with the Chicago Steel, had a great tournament with Canada at the under-18s, and then put together the best freshman season a 17-year-old has had in decades. I mean, you look at the stats that he put together, the most goals ever by a U18 player in college hockey. There's somewhere around 140 skaters that played at 17 years old in college hockey, and Macklin Celebrini had the highest goal-scoring season in the history of the collegiate game. And then he had second most points, 64 points, to Craig Simpson's 84 points that he had back in the 1980s when everybody was seemingly putting up 70, 80 points in the NCAA. So really a special player. So what is he going to be at the NHL level? That's what you're going to be asking, and that's what NHL teams are asking. I think everyone across the board would say at the peak of his talent, he should be a number one center, an all-star caliber center in the NHL. And to me, I really do think he's going to be one of the elite players in the game. He might not be the elite scorer that a Connor Bedard or a Jack Hughes is, but he's going to produce a lot of points, and he's going to make a lot of plays, and he's going to be the kind of player that helps you win championships because he's good off the puck as he is on the puck. So production is going to be high. Everything is going to look really good for Macklin Celebrini in terms of what he can be as an NHL player. I think he's a true number one center, a guy that can play in all situations. You can put him on the PK, on the power play. You can put him just about anywhere, and Macklin Celebrini is going to deliver for you. He is an elite player. When we talk about NHL comparables, the guy that I've often talked about with Macklin Celebrini is Jonathan Toews at his peak. Jonathan Toews was one of the top players in the NHL over that span. He was an elite forward, got the forward of the tournament at the Olympics in 2010. There were a lot of things that he did at a young age that just won't be replicated, and we kind of forget about because, obviously he had injuries and other things that cropped up later in his career. But I think Macklin Celebrini is that level of talent, and really, he actually outproduced what Jonathan Toews did as a underage freshman at the University of North Dakota. So that is what we're talking about. I think there's some comparables there. His head coach, Jay Pandolfo, has said on multiple occasions that he felt he was Sidney Crosby light. And I used to resist that comparison because who can compare to Sidney Crosby? But the more you watch Celebrini, the completeness of his game, the offense and defensive elements, the understanding that he has for how to play the game and always playing the right way, always doing the right things, having tremendous habits, I really do think that comparison is not terribly far off. I mean, I really think that if Pandolfo's not saying he is Crosby. He's saying he's kind of in that realm and in that kind of pushing towards that Crosby echelon in terms of how he plays the game. But I think Jonathan Toews is a little bit of a safer comparable. And if he's a number one center, think about 3 Stanley Cups for Jonathan Toews. I think Macklin Celebrini has that ability. So where is he going to go in the NHL draft? There's no doubt. He's the number one prospect. There's no question. He will be the top pick in the draft, and he is going to be a franchise-changing player.